I want to know, speaking of like Korea and the fiasco that happened for Cloud9, how was your boot camp? Like, what were your goals? What was your structure going to be heading into the boot camp? How effective do you think it was? Give me all of the scrim bucks, because now you can talk about them, about who you were scrimming for MSI, how you guys were doing. It's a completely different patch now, so nobody gives a shit.
So we only played LCK and LPL teams. Nice. Somehow we have this amazing guy called Core JJ that has a lot of contacts.
That helps a lot.
That helps a lot, because from what I heard, the other NA teams that were scrimming there couldn't even get a single
one. Nothing. For real, what Guilhoto was saying here, I'd heard from other people that even though they're all in Korea bootcamp, they were not getting any fucking scrims. In fact, some of them were even just getting clowned when they couldn't even get like the contacts and shit to find these scrims.
And actually, I mean, I'm a pull it out to tell you, since now I guess I can talk about it.
He's got the Excel out. He's bringing out the Excel document, ladies and gentlemen.
No, not the Excel.
Okay.
So, I mean, to be fair, like the start, we could have maybe put it a bit easier, but we started with EDG and the next day Damwon. So those 2 days we were like kind of getting used to Korea. But then after that, it started going well. We got some Africa, Top Esports, Rion, KT, Nongxin, FPX. IG canceled the last day, so we didn't play them. But it was incredible. It was my first time there, and just the way that these teams face practice with very low amount of FFs. Even when the game was at 10k gold lead, teams will still try to make it as annoying as possible to end the game. With their culture of, so in there is 3 games, break for 2 or 3 hours, 3 games, changing a player, putting like a random rookie on one of the blocks just because he can be a super rookie. But outside of the first 2 days, we did really well.
Did we still do the triple blocks?
I heard Core told me once that Faker messaged him to play a block at like 11 or something, but we were already going to bed. So I guess some teams do, but we weren't doing. We were just playing.
Faker's stocks dropped now. I bet in the past Faker could message anyone at 11. He's like, I want to play some game. Everyone's like, yeah, we're all up. Yep, get him up. Everyone in the sun.
I think it was still that time that we were still a little bit on the jet lag side of things.
Sure. Yes.
But it was amazing. I think Wipo was the highest one in terms of solo queue. I think he was the only one getting challenger.
The thing is, imagine like, if you're Korean and you played real League of Legends, playing against Wipo must be like, what the fuck is this? Who is this guy? What is this shit? He's some pro player in the West. What is this crap? I thought he was just griefing me or something like, because he's got the maddest style of it. I bet, and also, if no one's ever seen him in solo queue, it's even more disrespectful now he plays in solo queue. I love it though.
I mean, to be fair, the only thing that I regret from that bootcamp is that we were not able to play Vitality and Excel, especially Excel, because this Nelson guy talks so much shit.
There we go. Is he pissed off on talk shows or something? Or is it behind the scenes he's talking trash? Where is
No. Okay. I'm good. I'm in good terms with him. It's just It's just friendly banter. But to be fair, beating him up, beating Nuke Cup, it would just be good. It was just good.
So when I want to go back to something you said. So the scrim block difference is that you said you would play like 3 games and then take 2 to 3 hours off and play 3 games. Was that all against the same team? The 2 block, like the 2 games?
It was always against the same team. Yeah.
So how do you like that? Because typically the NA scrim culture is you play 5 games, right?
Yeah.
All straight through. So did you find that like the break allowed you to do review to like prepare for the second best of 3 or 3 games, as it were?
I don't think it necessarily helps you prepare. I think it's just like a much more efficient use of your time, because in Korea queues are so small that people just use that to eat, use that to individually do some repairs that didn't have time in review, would use that to play a lot of solo queue, to go out, in our case at least, to go out and explore the city, to rest, because when you try to put a lot of focus, which is what happens in Korea especially, I assume that's what it seemed from the Asian teams, but it was definitely what's happening to us, where you try to put a lot more effort in those scrims because you won't get these opponents again. You really want to try your best. You get kind of like exhausted, so getting that rest to recover makes the second block more efficient. But I think that would never work in NA.
Also, I imagine they do this structure because they play best of threes all the time. So it makes sense to play 3-game blocks because that mimics the maximum amount of time you would have to focus on stage.
Yeah.
By the way, the thing Guilhoto said as well about how they'll put in a sub, if people don't know, the joke is actually T1 had the Jack strategy ahead of everyone. Basically, I heard the reasons why all those fucking faker backups always got signed by LPL is because basically like they would just put him in for a scrim when SKT was like the best team. They'd put him against like LPL teams in like one scrim block where they don't want faker to play or something. And if they did half decent, it was just like an advert for like this guy's really skilled, like, and you could have available because we've got faker. So like I've even like that's actually a common thing. They won't do it if people think like they were disrespecting TL. They do that anyway. Like they try the subs that they're going to use in the split in some of the scrim blocks.
It's like they were doing it with Core when he changed to support. This is like Core was telling me that this is just the normal way for a rookie to get what they usually call it like super rookie that would get introduced, and it was always like a 17 years old guy that we have never seen before. 1 point something KLPs in Korean solo queue, and it was always like the same format. But the reason why I think it wouldn't work in North America, one is literally what you said, the BO3 format, but also because for some reason the stage games in LCS start between 12 and 2, depending on which day it is, and if we are practicing. So we should always like try to get the practice on the time that we would be playing on stage, just so that your routine around it is always the same. And if you will never play to the later stages, then it doesn't really make sense to end up playing there. And the third reason is you don't really get the full benefits of the breaks because the solo queue is just bad. Right. So it's not like you have 3 hours in Korea, you queue up for solo queue, 2 minutes, you get a pop, you play maybe like 3-4 games in that break. In NA, you're waiting like 30-40 minutes to get a pop. Champions queue is not open at that time, so you play like one solo queue maybe in those 3 hours.
I mean, it does seem like kind of a solvable problem though, because if everybody's schedule was the same and Champions queue is open, players could play Champions queue in that break time. You just have to coordinate it with Riot and the rest of the teams, right? Because that's the advantage of having all the professional players on the same schedule, is that after approximately 3 hours of these 3 games, everybody's going to be in Champions queue, speeds up the queue time, it's open, everybody can play, right? And Champions queue has actually been very highly populated, it seems like, at the start of this split. There's been a lot of activity.
The 12 ones, though. That is usually the big one. Because in EU, for example, I remember we would start scrims around like 2 or 3 p.m. Because in EU, it starts either at 5 p.m. or 6 p.m., the games. In Korea, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's very similar. It's like 5 p.m.
Yes.
5 p.m. Korea time, right?
Yep.
But in NA, it starts sometimes at 12. So if we are going to start at 12 and finish at like 5, usually 5 can be the last game, but we are starting a second block at 7, then the schedule itself just doesn't add up.
I'm not sure there's a good way to fix that problem, unfortunately.
Yeah.
It's because the problem is, if you think about it, there's the problem. The obvious thing to do, Monty, is what Riot pretended they were doing all along. You treat each region as if it's its own league, its own ecosystem. You start the games at a reasonable time, like 5 p.m. But the problem is, in the modern day, are you ready for the joke of all jokes? LCS is in the LEC spot. You know how LEC had to be the bitch and work around like the NA broadcast? Well, LCS is going to have no viewership if everyone in Europe's in bed, isn't it? Like, NA isn't enough alone to carry it. So you have to make it at 12 if it's in LA, because otherwise it starts at 9 over here, doesn't it? So it's sort of done themselves on that one, I'm afraid.
Yeah, and if they did start it at night, I mean, to do a comparison for you guys, so 1-to-1 comparison, which is the start of the summer split this year compared to the start of the summer split last year, okay? Now, the start of the summer split in 2021 featured on the same day, week 1, day 3, which was a Sunday, was a super week as well. There was a Cloud9 versus Team Liquid game that had a peak viewership of 262,000 viewers. That same game this year, and that includes co-streaming, had 150. So it was over 100,000 drop of peak concurrent viewers on the same game on the same day. And this has been reflected across all of the games of the first weekend. So, I mean, if you moved it into a later slot, that viewership would obviously be even worse because the European fans wouldn't be there.
Yeah,
Like Dardoch got all of his past teammates to watch. It's only 100,000. Whatever. Just to show that Dardoch isn't in the bloody league anymore. He's pretending to be a coach now.
He was not bad. I liked working with him.
Yeah,
because here's the genius. What people don't get about Dardoch is this. Actually, coach is the perfect role for him because then he can just give his ideas, but he's not raging at the players in the server. Like, unironically, that actually makes sense. What people don't get is guys like that are just, it's actually being competitive that makes them wig out. It's like people don't, it was the same with Forgiven. That it's actually not that they want to just be a shit to their teammate. They just can't handle losing in stupid ways. So they can't deal with it like adults, unfortunately. It's just the way they are, you know.
Yeah, sure.
So I could see him, like, pretty sure, I bet he has some great insights to jungle, to just whoever the jungler is as a coach. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. I think he just, in order for him to actually become even a better coach than what he was, at least when I was there, is he needs to fully give up on the idea of playing. Because when you coach with the idea of playing, then you will not do it. You will not do justice to the guy in your role that you're coaching.
Oh, fucking hell! Sorry, keep going. I had some in my throat there. Fucking hell! Sorry.
What? No, I think when I talked to him, he said. I mean, I think that he actually embraced it. But at the end of the year, he just wanted another challenge.
Understand, folks, I am aware of my power. You don't get this. Every time I make a comment like that, they feel compelled to correct me, which means you get the actual information you want to know, you stupid fucks. That's what I do. This is what I do, motherfuckers. I am Thanos. I am inevitable. I am esports. Okay, keep going. Back to the show. Just don't bring up Froggen.
So let's switch focus and talk about some of the teams. I mean, we talked about 100 Thieves a little bit. I guess we should finish with the Team Liquid like boot camp first, which is like when I alluded earlier. My question was leading into this when I alluded earlier that because of Core JJ and all the issues you guys had, it's really hard to fix some fundamental issues. You guys kind of played as if you had too many choices. Like you didn't settle on a style that you wanted to play. So it kind of felt like you guys were trying to play everything at once and didn't know how to allocate resources. And you still won the vast majority of your games because you have the most stacked NA roster in fucking history, at least on paper, right? And so as a coach, now that you had this break, you had a mental reset after the season, you could go to Korea, be in a new place really. And it helps to have these breaks where everybody goes to a certain place together. Everybody's mentally aligned with the new goal of like, this is our boot camp. We need to make the most of this. You're in a new environment, so you're not necessarily falling back into the same habits. It feels fresh. You're more engaged. So what were your goals as a coach going into this boot camp, and what did you want to fix, and what were the successes that you saw at the start of this split?
So before that, we also had a kind of like a retirement, or not a retirement, retiring. I don't know the word. We went to a mansion for 2 days.
A retreat. A retreat. Yeah. That's what it's called in English. Yeah, it's.
It can technically be called a retirement too, but just it's like no, it doesn't need to take like a time off.
So you went. This is like an American corporate thing, dude. Okay, so you went to a retreat in a mansion. Where?
Yeah. I mean, here in LA, it was pretty close. For 2 days with some people specialized in it that came there and helped us, and it was a lot around finding what is our goal bigger than winning, what can push us, getting to know each other or individually much better, the fears, did some exercises to increase trust and whatnot. And we started developing what we call our ethos. And that's part of what I was saying, a lot of those changes more than gameplay were the mindset that we want to bring. And then the gameplay will be, we'll have to match kind of that gameplay, and in Korea, that's a lot of what we focused on, making sure that we are playing aggressive, that we are playing in a way where when we have opportunities, we take them. Always have a mindset of pushing our limits, celebrating the plays that go well. If it's a situation of pushing limits that it goes bad, incentivized to keep looking for this type of outplays, and everyone and this was a page that everyone could get on board with. So in Korea, obviously, it really helped to have good results against really good teams and really good players to kind of like establish and show that this kind of mindset implementation works for us. And then we just started riding the momentum. and until that momentum lasts, we'll be good. And now it's just a matter of keep building on top of that mindset. But that was like the main thing that we were looking in Korea.
See, here's the thing, Monty. That's LCS players in a nutshell for you. It's like we play professional video games in a children's game. We're in LA where it's sunny all the time. We get paid millions of dollars and we're in a mansion. Now let's all get together and put our heads together. We've got to creatively come up with some sort of a motivation. Why am I still doing it? Like, fucking hell, man. Give me a break. It is the ultimate, like, DJ Khaled suffering from success.
To be fair, Thorin, I did it 2 years in EU as well.
Okay, fair enough. Okay.
So when you go to the mysterious team building mansion and you go to Korea, what were like some of the concrete? Because you said you wanted to play like more aggressively and proactively, but were there specific things that all the players agreed on?
So we always wanted to, more than items, be in a map position where tempo is the most important thing for us. We always want to be able to reset first, and be able to always be first on our next play. We put a lot of focus and emphasis on finding enemy jungler. We've put a lot of focus on taking more 3v3s and 2v2s that require outplays and 50-50s, and put ourselves in positions to outplay the enemy, especially in practice, because we felt that if we are putting ourselves in positions that we have to outplay, when we don't, we at least are gonna learn from it. And if we practice that more than other teams, then when it comes on stage for those outplay situations, we'll be more ready than other teams.
Make you better internationally as well, right? I think that's a good mentality to have for international play.
Yeah, and then it was mostly just like pushing limits in laning phase, going for trades that we think are beneficial. Try a lot of 1v2. You can get out situations, 2v3s, and like I already went further than what I wanted to go, so I'll just.
No, that's good. No, I think it's you were generic enough, and I think it's really interesting to hear about this entire process, because this was. It feels like that this was the reset that you needed, and everything was so rushed coming into the season that you never really got an agreement out of the players about what kind of team Team Liquid was going to be, and you were winning anyway. But I mean, it didn't look amazing, right?
Here's Monty. I happen to know actually a very special team bonding exercise that they actually did in Team Liquid, and they do in all of Bjergsen's teams. They have to every day do yoga, or at least I think that's what it means. Because why does it say in the contracts the whole team must bend over backwards for Bjergsen? What else would that mean?
The back.
Listen, I can do this all week long. Understand this? I've got material. Don't even worry about me. I can do something.
Do you have like any book written down there? Like,
I should. I should. But listen, back in the day, there was a really old school comedian in Britain called Bob Monkhouse, and he actually did do that because he was old school. He had like a little black book that had all his best jokes. I should just have one of those, like fuck TSM on the front, like just all the shit TSM's ran on. It should from over the years.
So, but it has been great, and with
one thing I want to ask you about. Let me ask you this question. When you say that, though, like, I don't think that's a minor point, because think about what he just said there, right? Most coaches, first of all, they haven't got the best players, so they have to, like, look, who have I even got? Like, right, if I've got, like, Impact, I'm probably not going to play carry through top lane all the time, or I've got, like, this guy who only plays, like, a carry AD. They normally have, like, a lot of how they want to play defined by the personnel. I think the interesting thing you're pointing out is because you have all these amazing players and you didn't have the best first split, you can actually sort of decide an ethos and then get them to buy into that and do that. Like, that's actually, I think that's the future of coaching, mate. It's not just, like, only work with the pieces you've got.
No, and that was the goal. And obviously, it's very easy to say that our playstyle will be through bot. But if we look at our game against C9, right? Where was it against C9? Or no, against Dignitas, where we are playing. I mean, we played Ezreal against C9 and Dignitas, but we are like playing Ezreal, and Core is just roaming top with Alistar and just making some plays on Bwipo's lane. So it's more than a specific lane or a specific playstyle. Is just he had the window of opportunity to make that play. We go for it, and then it ended up being a 1-for-1. But we are just connecting the plays. We saw Leona moved, so we zoned Kai'Sa out of the wave. Once Kai'Sa is gone, like literally the same thing with Bjergsen, which I think it was like a fantastic call from him. He asks Blue Trinket from Hans, make the pick on GP. Insta after that play bases, TPs to top, baits with the stopwatch and the Azir tower, we ace the enemy team, we can end the game. and it's a lot more of like trying to connect these plays and always be proactive on the map, and more than make sure that this guy carries the game.
Dude, the reason I even like that, though, is because that's actually also, in my opinion, a reason why super teams normally fail. Because first of all, if it's a real super team, everyone's used to being like a carry, which isn't going to work for the whole... You can't carry every game, obviously, there's 5 players that have that. And then secondly, because they used to be in the carry, they're not used to understand, like, well, how do I play with this guy? Surely everyone just does what I want, it follows me. It's like, you got to have, like, a philosophy that you all join into, and that's it.
Yeah.
Want to see more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, be a pleb and don't.